18 years old, I lost my mom to suicide. I experienced the same tragedy a second time when my grandpa died by suicide this past summer. I will no longer let suicide take anything more away from me.
That is from the powerful series of reporting from journalism students at Marquette University from a project they're calling Break the Silence.
And we are joined by two key contributors to that program, Jenny Fisher and Devi Shastri. Thank you both for being here. Jenny, let's start with you. Powerful, moving video. You have experienced the tragedy of suicide. How did this program get going? And obviously it was important to you to be a part of it.
Definitely. Well, it started, my professor Mark Zoromsky reached out to me, and I was so grateful for that. He had asked me if I would be interested in being a part of it, and at first I was like, okay, sure, why not? And then as things got rolling, I saw how immense and powerful this project was. And I started out writing a piece called A Strong Line of Fighters, and I talked about my mother's death by suicide and how it affected me, but I also wanted to make sure I mentioned, I don't want to say the positives, but how I came out on the other side of things in a more positive way.
You're also making it very clear this is a painful story to tell, right?
Definitely. I mean, it's never easy to talk about suicide, and when it's so personal to you, it really makes it a struggle. You know, how are people going to react? Am I getting looks on campus? Different things like that.
And one thing I loved about the article, where she just really you played out everything that happened in as much detail as you could, but I really loved how you said, on the other side, how you overcame. Where was that moment when you really felt like, I'm not over this, but I can see this as something that helps me to get where I'm trying to go?
Definitely. Well, it's coming up on 7 years this upcoming December, so I was 13 when it happened. I'm 20 years old now. You know, I look back over the years and it was never easy, you know. I mentioned in the article a bit about all the things I wish my mom was here for, you know. I mean, middle school graduation even was missed, and so I think about the way I need to give credit to my family. My dad is my idol, my best friend, love him to death, and my brother and sister as well. Being the youngest of those three, being able to look up to all of them is incredible.
Did you see any signs? We were talking with the person from suicide prevention earlier in the first segment. Were there any signs that you saw even as a young child that your mother was reaching out for help? Exactly.
I mean, for me, I mentioned in the article that my mom's mother, my grandma, had passed away of ovarian cancer after 8 years, and so to see my mom kind of going downhill after her best friend was gone, I wish when I was 13 I would have had that kind of training to be able to look at that. You know, I think that's something today I would really love for people to be able to, like, teach the younger generation, because it affects the younger generation more than we realize.
And Davey, is that a reason for the project, to get this message out, to talk to people and not to be afraid to talk about it?
Yeah, and this project kind of started out before most people came back to campus last year, and some of our editors started talking about how we learned that there had been a death by suicide on our campus over the summer. And so the question was, with the people who were in that room, was like, how do we report this, if we even do? It's a common practice that news organizations don't, just in order to not cause more pain for the family, to not sensationalize anything. But one of our editors said, well, we can't just not acknowledge this person's life and not, like, remember them. And so they ended up writing a story that didn't mention that it was a suicide, but just said that this person had passed away, but with the commitment that we would come back around to it. And so I got phased. I'm the projects editor at the Marquette Wire, so I got phased in as the school year began, and we started working on this project.
Thus breaking
the silence.
Yeah. Tell us about the ribbons. You're both wearing ribbons
Yes.
right now. What is that a symbol of?
These are suicide awareness ribbons. We are passing them out on campus because we have a forum coming up, and we will be bringing in professionals and people who have struggled with suicide to share their stories and to create a space where people can ask questions and have conversations and learn how to help the loved ones in their lives.
What has been the takeaway from you for this project?
This has been an incredible project to work on, and I think the biggest thing was we were very nervous in the beginning of how do we get people to talk about something that is so personal and so very sensitive, and how do we do it in a way that makes a difference versus causing more pain for people. And just finding people to talk about this at first was very, very difficult. And the big takeaway was, as we started putting out more stories on all of our platforms, we had TV, radio, and multiple print publications. We started putting out these stories, and people started coming out and telling us more about their stories.
Marquette, Jenny, was part of a study back in 2009 about suicide and what's happening in the college ranks on this. What did they learn from that study? And then, as you were sharing your story, what's been the reaction?
I mean, for me, people have come out of the woodworks, kind of like Davey said. I've had a lot of people reach out, even Facebook messages from people I don't know, but are very, very heartfelt, kind people, and people just supporting me. You know, I mentioned earlier that I was scared of, am I getting looks? What are people thinking of me? And it's really, there's a strong community here in Milwaukee. We have a lot of great people here, and I think the support group and people who just genuinely care.
What would you tell a young woman who, in the same shoes as you are, dealing with suicide from a parent or a loved one? What would you say to her or him in getting help or trying to find solace in?
I would say, don't ask for a lighter load, but a stronger back. You honestly, you have to go through with it. It's life. You keep things rolling. You do what you have to do, and you will come out stronger on the other side.
And that came in a birthday card to you, right?
Definitely. Yes, you remembered.
Yeah. Thank you both for coming here to share your story.
Thank you.